So after decades away, Yaakov finally returns home. And he has what I'm sure was an incredibly joyful, emotional reunion with his father, Isaac, Yitzchak. But unfortunately, he doesn't get to see his mother, Rivka, because she has passed away just before he arrived home. Which means that she never got to see him again after she had sent him away all those years ago. Remember what had happened. His mother Rivka had convinced Yaakov that he had to impersonate his brother Esav in order to receive the blessing of physical prosperity from their father Yitzchak. Afterwards, when Esav realized what had happened, he flew into a murderous rage. So Rivka told Yaakov that he needed to flee to her brother Lavan's house and to stay there until she would send word for him that it was safe to come home, that Esav was no longer planning to kill him. And then Rivka convinced Yitzchak, her husband, that it would be a good idea. So Yitzchak commanded Yaakov, go to Lavan and marry one of his daughters. So Yaakov leaves. The sages tell us that he spent a period of time learning in yeshiva, and then he makes it to Lavan's house. He has to work 7 years for the right to marry Rachel. And then on the wedding night, Lavan deceives Yaakov and switches Leah for Rachel. So Yaakov then has to agree to work another 7 years for the right to marry his original intended wife, Rachel. And then he spends an extra 6 years working for Lavan in order to make some money to support his large family. But then, the sages explain, Rivka sent the messenger. She sent her nurse Devorah to tell Yaakov, it's safe now. Esav's no longer planning to kill you. Please come home. And so Yaakov packs up all his belongings, his family, and he starts heading home. He makes it back to the land of Israel, encounters Esav's angel, and they have that epic battle. Yaakov wins. And then he has his meeting, his rendezvous with his twin brother Esav. They embrace and go their separate ways. So now Yaakov should head straight home, right? But he doesn't. Strangely, he spends 2 years living in 2 different cities in Israel, not going home. And Rashi, the greatest of the commentators, tells us that these years that he was away from his parents exacted a terrible toll. Because he was away for 22 years during which he did not honor his father, he was punished in the exact same measure. His beloved son, Yosef, was taken away from him for 22 years. But that also doesn't make sense. Why should he be punished for 22 years? During the first 7 years, he was listening to exactly what his father and his mother told him to do, living at Lavan's house, working to be able to marry a wife. And the next 7 years, I'm sure his father would have agreed to allow him to stay there to marry the wife that he actually intended to marry. And I'm sure he would have also agreed with the next 6 years when he was trying to make money to support his family. It's only those last 2 years, perhaps, that get him into trouble, because that's when he's going beyond his parents' mandate. Rivka had told him to come home, and he wasn't listening. So why wasn't he listening? I saw a commentator who suggests that he was scared that Esav might change his mind and come after him and try to kill him. So maybe he was having a debate with his mother. Mom, normally I would trust your intuition. A mother knows best, but not in this instance. We're twin boys. No one knows Esav better than me, his twin brother. And I'm worried, if I go home and reunite with you, my co-conspirator, to take the blessings away from my brother, that might send him into a berserker rage. So I have to disagree. I have to stay away. And so maybe what he was doing was waiting during those 2 years, painfully, for his mother to pass away so that he could then go home. But that tells us that if you disagree with or disobey your parents, even if you've got a great reason, even if you're trying to save your own life, there still can be painful consequences. And I spoke to a rabbi with whom I'm friendly who suggested a further point. He said maybe the issue was that Yaakov wasn't fully internalizing or empathizing with his parents' pain. Maybe he didn't realize just how painful it was for them not to have seen him during all those years. And maybe if he had, he would have figured out a way during those 2 years. Some clandestine secret meeting, maybe at night, maybe in disguise, some way to see his mother, if only for a few moments, one hug, one embrace, one goodbye. And so we've got to remember that. It pains our parents when we're not together with them. They want to see us. It's our obligation to reach out, to stay in touch, to go visit them, to feel their pain when they're not with us.